Good evening. We have been living with an enormous amount of uncertainty for almost a year now, and we can't underestimate the impact that has on so many of us. The pandemic still brings questions without number. Will I get COVID? How badly might I be affected? Could my long COVID last forever? What if I'm asymptomatic and infect my parents? Will I lose my job? Can I put food on the table? Will my cancer be treated? The vaccine offers some certainty, but as we will discuss later in the programme, there are important questions about the messaging around it. And what about the toll COVID's taking on our hospitals? In a moment, we'll return for the 6th time to the ICU ward at Salisbury District Hospital, where we've followed the story of the pandemic since last April. This time we spent 12 hours in ICU. First, though, we report on today's figures for infections and deaths, devastating for thousands of families, but figures that suggest the measures that we're taking are beginning to suppress the virus. Here's our policy editor, Lewis Goodall. Lewis.
Yes, Kirsty, as you say, we're now well into the 3rd lockdown.
Thanks, Emily. Well, we return to COVID now. Since November, Newsnight has revealed the often huge disparity between the amount of people claiming the test and trace support payment of £500 in order to be able to afford to self-isolate and the small number who actually receive it from the local authorities whose job it is to evaluate applications. The inability to self-isolate has a direct impact on the spread of the virus. Well, tonight, we understand that the system is now under review in Whitehall. Our UK editor, Katie Razzle, is here, and indeed it is on the front page of 4 different newspapers.
It is, Kirsty, and Newsnight, we've confirmed what first emerged in The Guardian tonight, suggesting
this decision would mean then that the speed of people getting the money would then lead to them self-isolating very quickly, and that might have an impact on these stubbornly high infection rates, and that's the key thing.
Well, exactly. I mean, we have been reporting from lives.
Katie, thanks very much indeed. Well, as of tonight, almost 5 million people have had their first dose of the vaccine. Wonderful for the recipients, but just how clear is the messaging they're getting about it? We understand there are concerns in government that not everyone is aware that a jab does not mean immediate immunity. It takes up to 14 days after the first dose for the vaccine to take effect. So recipients should assume they are not immune for the first 14 days, nor do we properly understand the effect on transmission. When it came to the spread of coronavirus, the key message was stay at home, protect the NHS and save lives. So, as the vaccine rollout ramps up, is it time for clear information and a new message? Well, let's speak to Dr. Sander, because, Matt Hancock naturally is talking about, how quickly we're getting the vaccine to people, how many people are getting the vaccine every day. Do you think people are being sat down and told exactly what getting the vaccine means? It means you're much less likely to get anything that's serious, but it doesn't make necessarily any difference, as we've just heard, to how infectious you could be.
Well, I think it's very important.
But you're a behavioural psychologist. When you have things, simple messages like stay at home, protect yourself, and save the NHS, we don't have yet a similar message for the vaccine. We don't have something that's very simple and clear for people of all generations to understand.
Well, maybe a simple rule of thumb.
Thank you both very much indeed. Well, that's just about it. But before we go, one of the memorable photographs from the inauguration was the lone, somewhat forlorn image of Senator Bernie Sanders in his winter mittens. And miraculously, he's turned up in all sorts of places. Good night.